Public service, what did I say? Safety? My God, I was chair of that like 20 years ago. Jeez. All right, so I see Councilor Hernandez up there. If I could have a second to open the meeting, Councilor. I don't know which side I should look at. You're muted, Libby.
Hi, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening. So I just made a motion to call this meeting to order. Can I have a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
It's like something out of Star Wars or Star Trek.
I hear you very low. Is there any way that they can up the volume?
Oh,
We hear you very loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Maybe if I just, is that better?
Not really, but I'm gonna try to tap in
Or maybe put your headphones on.
the source
You may be
because
dizzy.
this is
You
not
like,
working. I hear you really,
probably your
really low.
device. Maybe you put on
I'm gonna tap in from my laptop, okay?
headphones or something. Okay. All right. So the first thing I think we should do, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. We do have Councilor Libby Hernandez with us. We also have Peter Tallman. We also have Councilor Joe McGivern, and we also have Councilor and Acting Mayor Terry Murphy, and of course the glue who holds us together, our Administrative Assistant Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. Is that all we have? Jeffrey? Councilor Graney as well. He's doing some research in the back. All right, so I think the first thing we have to do is some houseworking. Item number 1, number 2, number 3, well. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
So one was actually refiled and actually was approved by the city council over the spring, so.
All right, so item number 1 it's on there, it's a duplicate.
It's a duplicate.
Okay, so we're not acting on number 1. Number 1 was already handled by us, and it was sent to the good Mayor Murphy, and he approved that. So we're going to be working on, if I could make a motion, to take item number 2, 3, and 4 off the table.
Make a motion to take item 2, 3, and 4.
Hold on a second, Libby. We got Jeffrey reading through some notes here.
No, because 4 is the one you're doing tonight.
Yes. Okay, so actually, we should take item number 2 and 3 off the table, the reappointments. Talked to legal today, and also talked to the good President McGee and Councilor McGivern as well, separately, of course. Research is still being concluded or being done by our legal team. So at this point, you just keep it on the table until Councilor Attorney Ball can get back to us. So all those in favor of keeping that table?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And I also see the good Councilor Lisi has joined us. Good evening. So we have all 3 of us. Yay. All right, so now we're going to move to item number 4.
Make a motion to take up item number 4 off the table.
Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Aye.
Okay, this is an order that was filed by our good mayor, Councilor Murphy, our Mayor Murphy, that the Public Service Committee interviewed for the position of tax collector. Okay, so now we have a bunch of different applicants here, and I think that what we'll do, to be fair, is just go into order. All right, so usually how we do this, and this is completely different than the ways we've done it in the past, is because it's done via Zoom, is we have 5 people that are interviewing for this. Are all 5 people here? I see 2, 3, 4. And is the 5th on Zoom?
There is one on Zoom.
And there's one on Zoom as well. Can you move the person on Zoom? Which person's on Zoom?
Jeff Distrump.
All right, he's the 3rd one. So if you could just move him to the waiting area.
There isn't a waiting area on the webinar.
Waiting area. All right, so usually how we do this is, just for fairness, is we usually ask the people that are here not being interviewed at the particular time just to step in the hallway. Just it's easier for the candidate that's applying for the position. So So at this time, we have Melissa LaFond. So if everybody else just can go in the hallway, we'd appreciate it. Counselor McGivern?
If I can make a suggestion.
Sure,
Because the Zoom candidate would be able to listen in, perhaps the committee would do the Zoom candidate first.
All right, so
It's a good
seldom
point.
wrong and right again, Counselor McGivern. Counselor Tallman?
No, I just agree with him. That sounds like a good point.
No, so what we're gonna do now is, if everybody could just leave, and if Jeffrey, if you can pull up Mr. Destromp. And does everybody have a copy of his CV or his resume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. See you in the room.
He is in.
All right. So, Mr. Destromp, I'm Jim Leahy, the chairperson of the Public Service Subcommittee, and also we have my colleague and friend, Councilor Hernandez, with us as well. We also have Councilor Lisi as well. So what normally happens in these interviews, and this is obviously different because it's a Zoom interview in this case, is you you introduce yourself, maybe just give some like key points and the reasons why you're qualified and the reason why that you want to be the tax collector. Then any city councilor can ask you any questions, and then at the end you obviously can ask us any questions. And what we do then is just give kind of a brief scenario of what happened at our next city council meeting, which is tomorrow night. Then the full city council picks a person. So having said all that, good evening, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Jeff Destromp. I lived in Holyoke my entire life. I graduated from UMass Amherst with a bachelor's degree in economics, and I have a minor in political science. So it's always something I wanted to be involved in with some type of government economics. Right now, I actually work for the state of Connecticut, the Child Support Processing Disbursement Unit. So I'm the financial/customer service supervisor there. I think actually I applied through Indeed, and I think it left off the whole customer service aspect of the position. So I'll talk about that as well. But first and foremost, I think a big part of the job that I handle now is actually I handle the reconciliation process. I do a daily reconciliation which any payments that were received, so we receive payments by mail, electronic payments, so ACH debit, EFT, and credit card. So I'm responsible for handling the daily reconciliation for those bank accounts, those multiple bank accounts. And then we also do a monthly reconciliation. So anything that is dispersed out to the custodial parents, refunds, anything like that, as well as the monthly disbursements and receipts. Let's see, what else? For customer service, at least, I have 4 people under me. It's me and 4 other reps. I've been doing the customer service portion of it since 2018. Most of my job ended up being automated, or not automated, but wasn't as much paperwork. I had to fill out cash receipts that came in by hand. So I had a couple hours extra time. The current supervisor that was there for customer service ended up leaving, and I had this position created, which was financial/customer service supervisor. So I just assimilated customer service into my financial supervisor role. Let's see, and then for that, we actually handle all the payments. So any payments that come in, we'll talk to customers. Everything's done by phone or email. Anybody that has issues, we handle that. I'm responsible for training and scheduling the staff. We do weekly meetings, just talk about performance, anything going on. I listen to their phone calls weekly, just quality assurance reviews, making sure their costs are meeting our guidelines. And then, for the most part, just any issues that come up, I'm responsible for handling them.
Okay, thank you. So so the company you work for now is Systems and Methods, Inc.?
Yes, Systems and Methods, Inc. So a child disbursement unit, child support disbursement. So we're in multiple states, and they actually run Massachusetts as well.
Okay, are you familiar with the program Munis at all? Probably not.
I'm not, but I actually looked up some videos on YouTube, and I was able to check it out. So it looked kind of similar to what we use. And then the top portion, at least Excel-wise, I use Excel a lot, so that looks similar.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have, Counselor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, welcome. Thank you for your interest in the position, and certainly for being for a Holyoker for your entire life. It's always a plus. Jeff, you covered a couple of the areas. Your resume speaks for yourself. The chairman asked a good question. So I'd just like to focus on one area and ask you to start with a simple question. Why would you want the job of tax collector, and a tax collector knowing is the person that everybody hates?
Exactly. No, I just think it's an important function of government. Like I handle child support payments, so it's, at least in my mind, it's pretty close. I mean, it's a necessary evil. Everybody needs to pay their due taxes. So at least for that portion, I understand, people aren't going to like you for that. And at least in my situation, I want to make sure everybody's, understands their role and make sure they're paying on time.
And Jeff, I think you said you supervise 4 customer service reps?
Yes.
Okay. If you have had any issue to apply discipline or take corrective action, or if you could just tell us what your approach would be if you had to take corrective action of anybody you were supervising.
I've definitely we'd have differences in the office. That's a given anywhere. I've done coaching, just to see how everybody's doing. We do weekly meetings. If anybody had issues, we would address them right there. I pull in one person, privately meet with them. If I had to get HR involved, they were involved. My direct manager would be involved, and we would just meet with them and try to solve the situation.
And my final question, Mr. Chairman, Jeff, being a Holyoker, you know that we have a strong form of mayoral government with a city council legislature that works closely, and the mayor certainly needs to work closely with the city council itself. The position is an appointee of the city council, but you'd have to work with the mayor. Would you be able to do that, knowing that the city council doesn't always see eye to eye with the mayor?
Of course, yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor Hernandez? And I
Thank you,
apologize-
Mr. Chair.
And I apologize
Hi,
if your hand was up
welcome.
earlier. I'm trying to look at the screen, but go ahead, Counselor Hernandez, you're up.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Destrom, and thank you for applying for this position,
Thank you.
this amazing city of Holyoke. And my question is, can you name a work accomplishment that makes you proud? And can you give us an example, please?
Probably one of the most things that make me proud. We downsized our office, so we didn't cut the staff. We cut the physical size just due to coronavirus. So I was actually in charge of downsizing all our physical forms, and I had to scan everything. So I was making sure everything was organized, making sure everything was up to date. We scanned everything through our Rico scanner. I made folders for everything online through our server, and just had everything just completely accessible to everybody who needed it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay,
It was a
thank
lot of
you.
years, 20 years we've been there, so a lot of paperwork.
Awesome. All right, Counselor Lisi. Oh, yeah, she's muted. Counselor Lisi, you're still under mute there. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Thank you for coming down this evening, so to speak, Mr. Destrom, for the interview here. The question that Councilor Hernandez asked sort of dovetails with what I was intending to ask, because it seems that you've been with this present position that you're in for a number of years. And I was wondering to what extent you were responsible for transitioning and pivoting to more online, more of an online setup due to COVID.
Yeah, so I'm also part IT there, jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So we actually had that whole, when we discussed it, our management team and our CEOs that are located in Georgia, we actually had a meeting Our IT, actually, we have about 1,500 employees throughout the country. I was actually responsible for setting up every single person in my office from working from home. So, I went to a couple of people's houses to help them out. So that was a big undertaking. And currently we're actually working hybrid. So some in the office, some at home, and we rotate days.
Great. And then the follow-up question to that is, to what extent did changes need to be made to make your office and the work that you're doing more remote for the public-facing side of it?
So we don't have so much of a public-facing side. Everything is done through phone and email. We're actually in like a secure location, so no actual person has access to us. So we just deal with everybody over the phone and internet or email.
Okay, so there wasn't much of a transition there, but in terms of the staff, there was a big transition.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Councilor Lisi. Councilor Graney?
Yes, thanks for coming in, Mr. Destromp. Are you aware of the salary conditions of the job?
Yes. Yep, I saw all that online.
And you're happy with those, with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Destromp, for coming down and being a lifelong Holyoker and putting in for a position in the city that's a very important, vital role. If you could, give me a couple positive traits that you have that you can learn to deal with people, coming in. Of course, people aren't happy. They're paying their taxes, excise taxes, residential taxes. How would you deal with, say, a difficult person coming in that sometimes not everybody is nice when you're coming down there?
Oh yeah, and it's something I deal with on a daily basis, just not in person. But I mean, you just got to understand where somebody's coming from. I mean, like at least for taxes, I mean, it's everybody's, everybody has to do it. Their prerogative. Everybody has to do it. It's just a matter of life. Same with child support. I deal with people every day who don't want to pay their child support, and it's just dealing with them, talking to them, and explaining what they do actually helps your community and your family. It's just completely understanding what they're doing.
Okay, and another question I have, sometimes we have people after a number of months that don't pay their taxes. Are you familiar with the company that we have that actually sends out notices for people that don't pay, say, their excise taxes in a year or so?
No, not really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I also see Councilor Lisi's hand back up. Councilor Lisi, go ahead.
Yeah, if there's no one else that wants to speak for the first time. Yeah, thanks. So one of the things that we have been exploring in the city is creating a finance director position that would sort of oversee all the financial departments. I guess it's considered a best practice in terms of financial management. And one of the other things that the city's been exploring is looking to combine the roles of the tax collector and the treasurer's position. So none of those changes would take effect for at least another 4 years, because it would have to be voted upon by the electorate, and then we'd have to make those changes, and they wouldn't take effect until the following, to the end of the term. So just out of curiosity, to what extent do you feel that you're up to date with like financial best practices in general? And then what does the sort of change sound like to you if we were to create a finance director position that coordinated all of the financial responsibilities under sort of like one umbrella department?
Oh, sure. Like I've always been involved in finance ever since I graduated college. I worked at Berkshire Bank previously, so I was there for a number of years, and then in my current position, we actually deal with about $250 million in receivable and disbursements every year for child support. And then I'm also in charge of recovering payments that come back for insufficient funds. So insufficient funds stop payments, and I'm responsible for recovering those as well. And so that's about $250,000 or so that I recover. And then just the reconciliation process is just used to all that.
So let me just ask a follow-up question to that part of it all though. So so to what extent, I guess, do you feel like you are being trained on like financial best practices, or have been able to update your skill set, or has the bank been sort of proactive in giving you like new trainings and different sort of skills along the way?
Well, the bank I had worked at since about 2015 prior to this. But currently, like I still follow like GAAP, the general accepted accounting practices. So that's still part of what I have to do. So it's not ongoing training, but I'm willing to do ongoing training for it.
And then just in terms of what it sounds like to have a more coordinated financial department as opposed to multiple department heads working, do you see any benefits one way or the other?
At least for combined positions, I think it does make sense. At least for somebody to go to directly for that and just spearheading the whole accounting finance departments. Or at least revenue.
I'm sorry if I cut you off.
At least for like the revenue portion to make sure that's all under one umbrella.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? Yeah, Counselor Graney?
Just quickly, Mr. Destromp, I don't see your educational history on the resume. Maybe I didn't get that sheet.
It's page 2.
All right, I only have page 1.
All right, he got his Bachelor of Arts in Economics from UMass. And he also he has a Principal of Banking certificate.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I'll make sure I'll get you one though. All right, does anybody else have any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Destromp, do you have any questions for me or any of the other city councilors?
What would like the current challenges be for somebody in this position?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What would the current challenges be for somebody in this position? Or the
Current challenges? Well, you're the tax collector.
Oh yeah, the tax collector.
Collecting taxes is
not
the biggest challenge. You're the only person, I think Councilor McGivern says this quite a bit at different functions. You're the only person that goes to a function at night and gets booed. But no, but seriously, I guess I would say the biggest challenge is just, collecting taxes. People often don't want to pay taxes, and we have to put liens, and we have to do everything we can to get these people to pay their fair share. Yeah, Councilor Mayor Murphy.
Yeah, Mr. Destner, I would say one of the things right now is they've been shorthanded for 8 months, 9 months, and I certainly think kind of coordinating and building that team back where they are comfortable working for you, but also understanding all of their roles so that when someone might be out, we're in a position where we can fill in, so that we basically cross-train everybody so that, they've done that, but right now there's only 2 people in that office, and when one's out, it really gets pressing. So I would tell you that's the stress part. They do have, and I've been there, when there are some people that are just being totally unreasonable. And again, you're in a position where obviously you got to try to maintain your cool. I would say those are the 2 right now. Just coordinating that team, making sure everybody gets comfortable back in their function and cross functioning with them, and then just dealing with it's believe me, it's not that often, but every now and then there's just somebody that you just come across, and I met with a few of them. So, but other than that, it's a matter of keeping track of records, making sure the data is up to date, making sure that when we need to touch base with people, we are able to take care of that on a pretty regular schedule.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. So having seen that or heard that, so what happens now is tomorrow night is our full city council meeting. And so any councilor can vote for any person that he or she chooses. However, generally they go after the people who expressed interest and applied. You certainly don't have to watch it, but if you do watch it, you just need the majority of the councilors to vote for you. So having said that, you'll know by tomorrow evening.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so what we're going to do is bring the next candidate. If you want to just log off, that'd be great. And it was nice meeting you.
Thank you. Nice meeting everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Bye.
Yeah, absolutely, yep. Thank you, Terry. All right, hey, good evening, how are you? Doing well, thank you. So I'm Jim Leahy.
Okay.
There you are. So I'm Jim Leahy, the chairperson of the Public Service Committee. We also have Counselor Rebecca Lisi. We also have Counselor Hernandez with us as well. I don't know why I'm pointing up there. And of course, I don't know if you know everybody, but we'll just go down the line. We have Mayor Murphy, we have Counselor Joe McGivern, Counselor Pete Tallman, Counselor Graney, and the real boss, Mrs. Graney. And behind me, we have the glue, as I said, that holds us all together, Mr. Anderson Burgos. So what happens here is you apply to be the tax collector. We'll give you, 5-10 minutes to go over particular points that you want to bring up and why you want this position and who you are. Then any counselor can ask you any specific question, and then you can ask us any questions. And so having said that, the table is yours.
Okay. Well, my name is Melissa. I've lived in Holyoke since about 2008, 2009. We lived on Ridgewood Ave. We recently bought a house on Laurel Street, I'm sorry. I've worked in a law office since I was 16 years old. I started in high school. I've worked for one attorney for 25 years until he passed away. I closed down his office, took care of the financials, closing down every aspect of his office with his
That's Attorney
reconciling all the
Howard?
accounts. Attorney Howard,
Yeah,
yes.
good man.
And then I have worked in Amherst for Attorney Spencer since 2013. And quite honestly, I could probably start off and tell you, I've never interviewed for a position before. It's word of mouth, and how it works in my business. But I'm in charge of the entire residential and commercial real estate transactions in our office, including the remittance of tax payments, collecting tax payments, dealing with, and as well as mortgages and any encumbrances or liens on any properties. We're in close communications with all the tax collectors in every town and city in the area, in Western Mass, basically, and some out of the area. And I'm quite honestly looking for a change of pace, because the real estate market, as you know, is booming still, and it's not stopping. And I simply can't work 60 to 70 hours a week for the rest of my life.
I hear you. Okay, so one of the things I asked, and I'm going to be asking, is, are you familiar with the computer system Unis?
I know how to use Unipay.
Say that again?
Unipay part, where on my end, the outsiders go in and look in.
Okay.
But I've never been in the office and
Okay.
seen the way that.
But you know all other computer programs, and you're adept at learning, that sort of thing. Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody have, first I'll go with the Counselor Lisi or Counselor Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome Melissa LaFont for applying for this position. My question is, and to keep it consistent, I'm going to ask the same question. Can you tell us about a moment, something that you feel accomplished and proud of from your previous employment that you can share with us and provide an example, please?
Well, it's my current employment. I'm still employed at this position. Basically, every day is an accomplishment to get through the days that we have to get to with people buying their homes and getting through with the bankers and the lawyer and the attorneys and the realtors, and getting it from start to finish, just completing the transition. It's a huge undertaking to get through a transaction from start to finish. And 99% of them go through, and at the end of the day, it's a good feeling to know that these people have bought their new home or sold their home or refinanced, however it happens, and everybody's happy in the end. Not 99% of the time, we'll say. There's always something that happens, but it's a daily accomplishment in just to get through the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Counselor Lisi?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for coming down, Melissa. I have two questions. The first is, in your present form of employment, did you have to transition at all in terms of your ability to interface with the public online, or to move staff and office resources online?
Well, I've been there since 1986 in this position, so with a different office, but we transitioned. We started out with typewriters. We started on typewriters. We transitioned through everything online, and basically we just went with the flow of everything of how it transitioned during time, and it came to us. We had to. We didn't have a choice. We have new best practices we have to comply with through state and federal. to be in compliance with all of the TRID banking regulations that we have to deal with on our end. So, and other than that, and I mean, as far as during COVID, we worked through COVID. We staggered our shifts. I worked from home for half a day and then go in, swap with my boss, and he'd go home. So I didn't really have any remote training or access at home. I can log in from home, and I do, but other than that, not as much as you probably are asking.
And just so I hear you correctly, so when you were staggering with your other employee or your supervisor, it was just to get into the office equipment. It wasn't that you had the ability to work from home. You had to get into the office to work with the equipment or technology there.
We're paper pushers. I have to be able to access the paper and get the documents ready. You know, loan documents are often a stack of at least 100 pages. I have to go through and flag them and tag them and get them ready for everybody to sign. Not something he wanted to do. So I do work from home. I can log in from home. I can do everything from home except for the paper part. So I can log into any system that I need to. Just I don't have the ability to print hundreds of pages at home.
And usually they have to be signed in order for them to be
right.
valid.
Well, then he takes care of that.
Okay, thank you for that. My second question is, in the City of Holyoke, we're having a lot of discussions about, number one, combining the treasurer's position with the collector's position. That would have to be subjected to a vote of the electorate. So that wouldn't happen for at least another 4 years or so. But it is sort of a conversation that's on the table. Additionally, there's a lot of conversation about the creation of a finance director position and creating a consolidated finance department. And I was just wondering if you had any opinion about what a better practice would be, whether it should be consolidated finance department under a finance director or multiple department heads related to finance sort of coordinating on their own amongst one another. I would just love to know if you had a position here.
Well, I know in Northampton, that's what they have. They have a tax collector and treasurer combined into one. I know it's quite an undertaking for Chris Bissell, the tax collector, to handle all the responsibility of the job. I'm assuming it would all work. You put on the research to this that it would all assumably work well. I don't really have any input on the finance department because I don't deal with the finance department on my end. But I would assume that each individual or department should have their own responsibilities, and if they all work well together, that would be fine. Putting all of it on one person is a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Melissa, welcome. Not only welcome to your first interview, but I think it's the first interview any of us have ever done with masks on.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more interesting. But we appreciate you being here. Why would you want the job of tax collector, knowing that the tax collector is the person everybody hates?
Because I'm the one who gets yelled at all day long anyway. So I'm used to it. This is what I do. I'm the one who has to give the bad news to people of how much money they have to bring or how much money they owe. Oftentimes people don't understand that you have to pay your taxes off before you can sell your house. And I had a client yesterday who told me she hadn't paid her taxes in 3 years because she didn't know she had to. So I had to break the news to people that it's your responsibility to pay them quarterly or semi-annually, whichever town you're in. And they're due and payable, and I'm just the bearer of the bad news all day long, so I'm used to it.
That's a great answer. I like that. Melissa, I'm not sure if you supervise anybody in any of your positions over the years, but whether you have or you haven't, could you share with us a philosophy of how you would approach any, if necessary, disciplinary action or corrective action for a subordinate?
Well, I actually got my first assistant 3 years ago. She came in, the HVAC guy's girlfriend, no legal training whatsoever, and I've brought her pretty much up to speed, about 75% up to speed. We have some issues. She takes on too much responsibility, so I have to turn her back down a notch. But other than that, it seems to work well. Mostly until I worked at this office. I worked alone for 25 years with just my solo practitioner and myself. In this office that I'm in, we had 5 attorneys. We now have 3. We had probably 10, 15 people in the office, and now we're down to 5, with people retiring and going their own ways. But we're strictly the real estate side of it. I only have my employer, my supervisor, boss, Bob Spencer, to report to, and I have an assistant under me. So I don't have a lot of training working with a lot of other people, being in charge of a lot of other people, other than my one assistant and Attorney Spencer, because he needs to know what to do too.
And my final question, I think you know that we're a strong mayoral form of government, but a legislative body, the city council, that not only needs to work with the mayor, but, needs to be able to, to be on the same page and what we can, back and forth. The tax collector is appointed by the city council. Being said, working together with the mayor, oftentimes the city council and the mayor disagree and can be on different pages. Do you see that as a problem with working with the mayor in the position of tax collector?
I wouldn't see it as a problem. It's just, I'm not sure who has the final say in a decision-making process, or if they have to, if the mayor overrules the tax collector, do we just agree with the mayor, or do we? I'm not sure how that works out.
Listen, I don't think there is an answer, because I think 13 city councilors will probably give you a different answer.
True enough.
But that's a fair answer to the question, because it's kind of a loaded question. But thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Graney?
Just quickly, very simple question, ma'am. Are you aware of the salary, and are you comfortable with it? Because this always seems to be consternation after the fact, and I'd like to establish it beforehand.
Well, the salary is a range that was listed on the
Yes.
the website. Does it start at the low end and then get to the? Is that the starting, or is it where does it?
The mayor could probably answer that question.
Well, more than likely, it's not going to start above what's in the budget, so. And I don't have my budget with me, but.
It's negotiable, though.
Yeah. I mean, typically, we try to go somewhere between the low and the middle.
Okay.
When I can, as long as it's within the budget. If the budget did not have it, then obviously.
Okay.
But I believe in this case, we're in that range already. So.
Yes. Then to answer your question, yes. I mean, I make really good money right now, but I work a lot of overtime. I worked 30 hours of overtime last week. I can't continue this. I have no life.
I understand that, as long as we establish
Yes.
that fact.
Yes.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. I just wanted to note that in relation to the question that Councilor McGivern asked about, who takes precedence when there's a disagreement between the executive branch and the legislative branch. I think we all heard that there is no right answer, but this is some of the reason why a finance director is encouraged by the Department of Revenue and Local Services, because they would be making finance-based decisions, and they would really serve as an advisor to both the mayor and the city council, and get to bring everyone onto the same page with their financial expertise and that sort of single-pointed orientation. So I just wanted to offer that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Melissa, for coming down, and welcome. Let's say you get the position. What are the first couple of things that you would do when you go into that office?
Well, I assume I'd have to meet everybody. As I say, I live in Holyoke. I'm not familiar with the people of Holyoke other than my neighborhood. Todd McGee, I used to live next door to his mom. That's about my extent of the knowledge of people in Holyoke. I just have to familiarize myself with the operations and the systems and the way that the whole office operates as a whole, and acquaint myself with the people and their functions and who does what and all of that. I'm assuming that there's people, that you have a deputy tax collector, and there's other people in the office that
true.
work in the position, I mean, not the collector, the head collector position, but assuming that everybody's there to help everybody out,
Of course.
to learn how everything works in the office.
And the other question I have, and, in today's day and age, money's an important thing, and how we balance things out. And, all of us have checkbooks, and some people balance them and some people don't. How would you deal with the city's money, and what type of basis, regular basis, weekly, monthly, the money coming in and being accounted for? How would you deal with that?
I assume it would be on a daily basis, or weekly at the bare minimum. I deal with probably $75 million a year in other people's money, buying their houses and spending their money. And I have to reconcile to the penny. We get audited by our title insurance companies. Banks require that we get audited. I reconcile for the IOLTA accounts, the client fund accounts. I reconcile the operating accounts for the office. I do the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. Basically, I'm the only one who does everything in the office. Everybody else just does little jobs. So I do it daily. That's my way of doing it. I have to stay on top of it.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Councilor McGivern, did you have your hand up?
If I could just follow up on Councilor Lisi and the finance director, I think it's a good question for this evening. But when she brought up that point, I just wanted to make the point perfectly clear. Councilor McGivern's in favor of a finance director as long as we make the mayor ceremonial.
Like Worcester, right?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so do you have any questions for us?
What is your time frame on hiring?
Our time frame of hiring is actually tomorrow night. So what happens from here is this is the Public Service Subcommittee meeting. Tomorrow night we have a full City Council meeting where all the City Councilors will be hopefully present. And all you need to have is the majority of the votes, meaning any City Councilor can vote for whoever they choose to or that sort of thing. So from any councilor that's not here, maybe I would recommend talking to them and just letting them know who you are and that sort of thing. But it's probably going to be voted on tomorrow night.
Okay.
As far as the start date, you'll be able to work that out. No, I think it's just expanding on what you said. Perfect. The start date could be worked out with the president of the city council. Will be our voice for when it would be practical for the person to come in to start.
Okay. Because I'm just my employer knows that I'm kind of on my way out eventually, but
we would be absolutely.
He doesn't know yet.
Yeah, we would not be. We would not impede any 2 weeks notice, 3 week notice. We would never do that. Never.
Okay.
No.
You may know after tonight.
I'm sorry?
You may know after tonight.
I may know after tonight.
No, he may.
Oh, he may. He's in Florida.
Oh, there you go. He might be golfing. All right, well, thank you very much.
Timing.
And our human resources personnel will reach out to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Terry, if you, good man, where's the list here? Where's the list? He already knows the list. He's on top, already on the list. Miss Wilson, how are you tonight? I'm doing well. Now finally you're on my side of the bar. All right. Just to let you know what happens here is we'll give you 5 minutes to kind of go over yourself and that sort of thing, and just give us some reasons or points why you're the right person for this position. Then any of the city councilors can ask you any questions that he or she chooses. Then you can ask us any questions. So having said all that, why don't you just go and tell us who you are and your street address and your background.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Wilson. I reside at 20 Bray Park Drive in Holyoke. I have been a resident of Holyoke for the last 11 or so years. I went to college in Boston, and then I got a job working for the state for CPCS right out of college. And then I chose to pack up and move to Connecticut, and I got a job working for Virgin Atlantic doing aviation security. And then after that, I was laid off in the middle of getting my master's degree. So you'll see my education is all geared more towards criminal justice, and my master's is in Homeland Security, as I thought that's the direction I was headed in, but I did have a minor in government. And then so I was laid off, I finished my master's, and then I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 25.
Fun.
And my mother convinced me to move home, so I came back to Holyoke, and where I worked at my father's law firm for many years, off and on, running their business side of things. And then I worked for the Holyoke Credit Union, and now I currently am employed by the Registry of Deeds in Hampden County as the budget director. So my interest in becoming the tax collector, funny fact, is my grandfather actually served as the tax collector for Holyoke for over 20 years, William Burns. Something about that kind of coming back full circle interested me, but also I think I have reached my peak with the registry. I don't see any more challenges or opportunities for me to grow. And so why not apply to be the tax collector in the city that I live in?
Okay, you do know that any sort of engagement here forward, weddings, parties, you're going to be the only elected official if you're chosen to be booed at?
To be booed at?
Yeah. Just kidding.
It's okay. I'm a Wilson. We are accustomed to being booed.
I'm just teasing. Is any Councilor Lisi or Councilor Hernandez? Let's start with my team first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Ms. Wilson, for applying for this job in our amazing city of Holyoke. My question, as I asked all other candidates, and to be consistent, can you name a work accomplishment that makes you proud, and can you provide an example, please?
Yeah, so I had packed up and moved to Connecticut not knowing anybody, and I was hired essentially on the spot to work with Virgin Atlantic as the administrative assistant to the chief of operations in the United States. And after about a month, they recommended that I move into the aviation security sector, which was only a team of 3 that was in charge of the entire U.S. operations. And for me, it was, a reflection of my hard work and the dedication that I had. Also, I think they saw a little glimmer in my eye when it came to auditing other people and ensuring safety for our crew members and our travelers. So, yeah, within about a month, I had been promoted substantially into almost a dream position.
Oh, great to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. Ms. Wilson, thanks so much for coming down and joining us this evening. I have 2 questions for you, one at a time. First is, in any of your previous positions or in your most recent position where many functions of our city government had to transition online, could you speak to any sort of similar transitions, either in the transition of any of the office work that you were doing to an online format, especially any sort of public-facing aspects of that business?
So there's been a little bit of that in each of my positions, I would say, in updating and getting with the times. With the law firm that I worked for, I was instrumental in taking everything off of paper and putting it onto a computer. So we had backups, and even though some of the attorneys didn't understand what was happening, it was better to have all these files, online. You saw, I have a brother who is an entrepreneur and a visionary about how we were one day going to read the newspaper on the phone, and my family couldn't, they were like, "You're crazy, that's never going to happen." And sure enough, it has happened. So there was a little bit of that with the law firm, and the position I'm in now, not a whole lot of work that I have done with moving us online, although we have been updating all of our records and mortgages, all of that, to be placed online to make it easier for for the public to be able to research their own deeds and whatnot. But with the bank, I was a part of the team that helped to develop their online banking system. So, which is still working out kinks to this day, but I was invited to offer my input as one of the younger people, part of the team, to help get them online.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, and then the second question is, the City of Holyoke is having a lot of conversations about restructuring its finance departments. And so there's two big conversations taking place. One is combining the treasurer and collectors, tax collectors and treasurer's position. So it's a consolidated or combined position. And then additionally, there's conversations being held around the creation of a finance director to serve as a single point of communication to coordinate the different roles of the various financial department heads. And so I was just wondering if you had a reaction to either of those sort of moves, if you had an opinion, or if you could insert yourself into those conversations, where would you land in terms of being in favor or seeing benefits, or being opposed and seeing, drawbacks?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think if it saves taxpayer money and time, and you can consolidate positions that one person can successfully do. I'm not sure how involved all of these positions are. So, one person may not be able to handle everything, but if it's feasible, I do know Katie Jakowski, and I have spoken with her about this, and it was mentioned that there might be consolidation in these roles, and for me, why not? Working for the state, I see a lot of wasted time, and in my position, there were periods where I didn't have much to do. The budget was handled, my daily tasks were handled, so I jumped on board with helping them to record the deeds and mortgages that come in. I like to think of myself as a team player, so yeah, I think if it's beneficial for the city and for the constituents, then I think it's a great idea.
Great, and then I think what I hear you saying, I feel like your response really focused on the combined treasurer collector position, but I think a lot of the points that you made in support also would carry over to the finance director position, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I just want to make sure that I am hearing that correctly, or if you wanted to speak to that more specifically, the finance director coordinating the different department heads that are under the financial arm of the city.
So the finance director is a new position that would be created? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's, I think it's a good idea. I think it's beneficial to have somebody in that role who can oversee, but doesn't necessarily have to deal with the day-to-day, but is also somebody else that these department heads can bounce ideas off of or get feedback from.
Great, thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilor Graney?
Yes, quickly, Ms. Wilson. It was interesting, your comment on reading the newspaper on a phone. I'm of a generation where I never thought I'd be able to get money out of a vending machine.
Yes.
But I'll ask the same question to you. Have you seen the salary posting and the range, and are you comfortable with it?
I have seen the range, yes, and yes, I'm comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Laura, welcome. I hesitate to say this, but when I started here, I worked with your grandfather.
Wow.
And enjoyed every minute of it. Bill was towards the end of his term, which was quite a long one. I think he's one of the longest serving city officials still in history of the city.
Wow.
And you have a good knowledge, so I'm going to ask the same question I asked but I just was wondering why, and thank you for sharing your experience and the way you shared. It was very, very good and helpful, to give some insight, because your resume speaks for itself, and it's got the experience that I think we need. But why would you want the job of tax collector, knowing that everybody hates the tax collector?
I actually, the few people that I have told that I was applying for this job, I got that same question. Why would you want that? The city is in a little bit of a distress here and there. Why would you want to take that on? The big answer is I appreciate a challenge. I am young, I am energetic, and Joe and I serve on the board of the merry-go-round together, so he might know me a little more personally, but I'm not one to back down. I am accustomed to being yelled at. I also work in a restaurant setting, so sometimes you have some unhappy customers. I think I could help. I think I could make a difference. I think I could, maybe bring some fresh eyes to the position. I know Katie Jakowski did a wonderful job, and I would like to continue that. I would like to see this city grow and thrive, and I think I would be a good candidate for that.
And looking through your resume, I'm not sure if you had experience supervising people, but whether you have or you haven't, how would you approach, if necessary, any disciplinary action or any corrective action with a subordinate?
So in my current position, I handle anything that has to do with money or the budget. So we have 10 people that take in checks or cash from attorneys or the people that come in off the streets to record their documents. There are many instances where a check isn't signed or it's not dated, and there are certain protocols that need to be followed. You are not allowed to manipulate a check, and there have been situations where they'll just write the date in so they know they can't get, they won't get in trouble, but my keen eye, picks up on some of these things. So while I'm not their direct supervisor, I am in charge of everything having to do with the money. So there have been numerous conversations where, you need to really pay attention to this. I know it's just one facet of your job, but it's what keeps this office running, well. So I would approach that with an open ear. A lot of times it's people aren't being heard, and having an open dialogue and good conversation, I think, would solve a lot of minor issues.
And my final question, and I know you have the experience to answer this question as a Holyoker and with the family roots and everything, is we are a strong form of mayoral government with the legislative body that should and needs to work with the mayor. The city council and the mayor don't always see eye to eye on issues, and sometimes that can get a little emotionally charged. Tax collector is appointed by the city council, but needs to work close with the mayor. How would you handle, when there are disagreements going on, your position in working with the mayor?
I think, being able to say that you can agree to disagree is a really valuable thing. I have served on a number of boards. I just finished my presidential year with the Junior League of Greater Springfield. It's a lot of very smart individuals coming together, and I think it's a matter of remembering that you're all here for the same primary goal, doing better for the city in this sense. So I don't think I would have a problem with it. I'm one to voice my own opinion about things, so I think I would handle that just fine.
Thank you. And I think that's the model of the city council, agree to disagree.
We tried to, right.
Thank you, Laura.
Councilor Tolman.
Yeah, thank you, Laura, for applying the position, and thanks for coming back to Holyoke, after being in Connecticut for a while. What do you feel is the most important role you would have as a tax collector?
For me, I would think delinquent accounts. I think getting people to pay up, or businesses to pay up, and being held accountable and getting some of that money back into the city would be my first and primary focus.
Okay, and are you familiar with, I think the tax collector we hire somebody out, to collect on some of those delinquent accounts, past due accounts, whether it's real estate or excise tax. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but I think I would be able to work well with others that would help collect on some of these outstanding taxes.
Yeah, I think that's important, because we, sometimes we just can't get the money in, and we have to hire somebody to sort of, do that for us, to send out a statement. They get a percentage, I believe,
Right.
out of that money, but that's important. And it seems like you have a great, working with the state and with the banking and law. And this previous position, the one recently, you feel that you're at a point where you'd like to move on, even only being there for a couple of years?
As the budget director?
Yes.
That position? Yeah, so I had been there about 4.5 years. We saw a major change when Mr. Ash passed away and Cheryl Coakley Rivera took over the position. There was a large shakeup in the office and, trying to get, I think, a little more up to date, making sure there were a lot of questions being asked, like, why do we do this instead of just business as usual? But that being said, there's no real room for me to grow. And again, I enjoy a challenge. I like new things. I like to be, up to date on what's going on. And that's just, there's nowhere else for me to go other than, potentially politically trying to become the register, which I don't see in my future. So for me, it's about being challenged. It's also, I have become extremely community-based in my adult life after college, and I think working in the city government would be beneficial and exciting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we came to the point of the evening. Do you have any questions for us?
Do you have any idea when you might make a decision?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So tomorrow night is our full city council meeting. So what comes after, so I'm not sure if I said this or not, but we do have Councilor Lisi and Councilor Hernandez and myself. We're the three people that make up the Public Service Committee. And all we do is interview the people. Then tomorrow night, we'll have the full city council. Each councilor has the right to name any individual that they choose. Whoever gets the majority of the votes gets the position. So it's going to be tomorrow night, theoretically. I don't see anything blocking it. So as I told the last person, all the counselors that aren't here, I would probably suggest reaching out and making yourself known that you applied for the position, you had the interview, and you'd like the position. So having said that, whoever gets the most votes tomorrow night will then get sworn in by our city clerk. So, but we would absolutely give the person 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what have you, to fill out their duties with their other position. We would not require to, stop what you're doing right away.
Right, okay. I think that's it.
All right, so having said that, we appreciate it, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening.
You as well.
All right. Okay, so we did, so Jeffrey Drew, he's not here?
Yeah, the gentleman that raised his hand was here for item number 3.
Oh, he was one of the appointments?
So, yes, so
He's gone?
left, so there's one more out.
One more, so Mrs. Burnell? Miss Burnell? All right, thank you. Did you touch base with this gentleman at all, Jeffrey?
I did email him, sent him a Zoom info, everything. Okay. Last week was closed today, and I did not hear her.
No responses, okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, just make sure your green button is on.
It is on.
It is on,
Yes.
okay. You're familiar with this room.
I
All right,
am.
so you probably sat through these meetings before, but what happens is, what we're gonna do is have you give maybe a 5-minute background and why you want this position and why you're capable of handling this position and doing this position. Then any city councilor can ask any questions. Then from there, you can ask us any questions, and then we move on till tomorrow night.
Okay.
So having said that, the floor is yours.
Okay. I am Deborah Burnell. I am currently one of the assessors for the city. And I do love my job I have right now, but I am looking to advance. I feel that my experience and my education my experience in public service and my banking background, I feel they would translate well into the position of tax collector. And to be honest, I am looking for a higher pay, and this position would allow me to continue my service with the city.
Okay, excellent. I'll go first to our colleagues, either Councilor Lisi or Councilor Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mrs. Burnell, for interviewing for this position and for having the desires of advance in your career. And I'm going to keep my question consistent as I ask every other candidate tonight. Name a work accomplishment that makes you proud, and can you please provide an example, please?
A work accomplishment that makes me proud. There's quite a few, but one that makes me proud is our end of year where we get our value certified by the state. It's a culmination of work throughout the entire year to come to that end of that process where we can get our value certified by doing sales inspection, sales analysis, everything else we do in our office, and working closely with the state and other departments to get to that point where we come to the city council and have them set the tax rate to make the budget.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. Thanks, Deb, for coming down this evening. I have two questions.
Okay.
The first is, in your role as the assistant assessor, did you in your office do any work to transition services online or to transition employees' ability to work online?
Did I transition them? I did not do any of the transition work myself, no, but we follow along with the programs that are provided to us through our Patriot and Munis systems and training through such so that we can do our work and learn new tasks, get our reports.
And you were able to access those online, so even if you couldn't come into the office, your ability
yes.
to access those?
Yes, the city
Great.
issued us laptops and we were able to work from home quite efficiently.
Yeah, great. And then relatedly, did the department do anything to make services that are available to the public or forms available to the public that weren't previously available online? Did anything happen to make things more accessible to the public online during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, we had some of our forms more accessible online and links to state forms and everything. And we even hand-delivered a lot of forms to people so that they would get them, or with our exemption paperwork, a lot of the people have to file copies of many financial documents with us. Mm-hmm. And we would physically go to their house and pick them up and copy them and bring them back to them.
Mm-hmm. So. I see, thank you. The second question that I have is, I'm sure you're familiar, there's a number of conversations happening around the finance department and the organizational structure of the finance department, or the financial arm, I should say, of the city. So one conversation is creating a combined treasurer-collector position. So I want to get your opinion on that potential consolidation, merging the tax collector and the city treasurer's position so that it becomes an appointed and single position. And then relatedly, we are talking about the creation of a finance director position that would work to coordinate the functions of all the different finance team department heads. So I was wondering if you could weigh in on those two conversations.
Well, I think both of those aspects are good. A financial director, I think, would be a step in the right direction, but also combining the position as well would be good for the treasurer and collector. A lot of other cities and towns are going in that direction now, and it seems to be working well for them. I don't know how it would work here, but also here, as well as a finance director, or just combining those two positions, more correlation between the departments and like what one finance department does and how what they do affects what the other department does and how it all works. When I started working for the assessors department almost 17 years ago, I went to a new officials finance forum that the state ran, and I highly recommended it to everybody that becomes involved in city finance, even the city councilors and everything, because it really gives you the general aspect of how things work. It's all just one big circle of clockwork and how it works together. It makes everybody understand it better. So I'm all on board with combining positions and finance director.
Thank you so much.
Counselor Graney?
Yeah, Mr. Brunel, you half answered my first question that I'm asking everybody tonight, which is, are you aware of the salary range for the position, and are you comfortable with that range? In other words, we've had some controversy over salaries in Holyoke, and I just want to make sure our applicants know what the salary is, know what the salary range is, and are comfortable with that, so there's no questions afterwards.
I am aware of what the salary range is, which is one reason why I put in for it. I would be hoping that I would be in the salary range of what the current collector is, or a little higher, commensurate with my experience that I've had with the city for 17 years, my education, and all of my banking background. I think it would be an asset to the city.
Thank you.
Counselor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Debbie, welcome, and thank you, first of all, thank you for 17 years of service. I don't think there's a city councilor here, past or present, that doesn't know your job performance has been, above par, and you've always given the 125% to your performance.
Thank you.
I've been asking questions, kind of the same question as everybody, so I'm sure you may have heard this before, but maybe not this one, but outside of the salary and the reasons you gave for wanting to be a tax collector, why in the world would you want the job that everybody hates?
I'm not sure if everybody hates the tax collector or the assessor more, so I am used to that. I do not get invited to a lot of people's homes because of who I am, so I am used to that. In banking, one of my jobs was as a delinquent loan tax collector, in that position on collecting delinquent loans. So I'm used to that. I'm also used to working with people and their finances over the course of my years, both in the assessed value of your homes when people are upset, and both in banking. Dealing with people with financial situations and how they handle their finances is always a very delicate subject. So it's something I'm used to handling, and I don't want to go on a limb and say I'm used to being unliked, but sometimes I am.
That's a good and fair answer. I thought everybody liked the assessor as long as you gave them what they wanted,
Yeah.
when they're not selling their home a low value, when they're selling their home a high value.
True enough.
Second question. I'm not sure in your banking experience, but, and I know in the office, you're not just a position, you're also a member of a board. But do you have any supervisory experience, but more important, even if you don't, and I know you do, but more important is, can you share with us your philosophy of how disciplinary action, if necessary, takes place, and whatever corrective action, how you would approach that?
Well, I've had a lot of experience supervising people, both at the bank and here. I only supervise the staff when Tony's not there, and don't need to do much. But in the past, and dealing with people in general, I find you have to, as well as being a supervisor, be a team player. You're all together on one team, and you have to make everything work. Disciplinary action only needs to be taken if there's things that are going wrong, and you have to make sure you document everything before you act on anything. But if you handle things right, you shouldn't have too many disciplinary issues.
That document is key.
Yes,
You know,
it is,
and
as
I
is
think,
following state guidelines and regulations.
Very important and well said. Final question. You're a Holyoker.
Yes, I
You
am.
work in this building already.
Yes,
You know we're a strong form of mayoral government.
yes.
But a mayor needs a city council, and we know that mayors and city councils roller coaster ride of getting along together. Knowing that the tax collector is appointed by the city council, but has to work very close to the mayor, how would you handle when the city council and the mayor weren't seeing eye to eye? How would you handle your position and your relationship with the mayor's office?
I would have to use the best practice of following the guidelines and regulations that are set forth, make sure that nothing unethical was being done or anything, but work to compromise together to come out to the best solution of everything for all involved.
Thank you. And thank you for your interest, but thank you for your answers. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that.
Yes, okay, Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Debbie, for coming down and applying for this job and for the dedicated work you've given the city already in the past 17 years. Just a couple of comments or a couple of questions that I have. In this position as tax collectors, as you've heard, it can be a difficult position at times here, collecting people's money. What do you feel that the most, maybe 2 or 3 most important duties of the tax collector?
Besides collecting the taxes, working with the public to ensure that they understand what the process is and why they're paying what they're paying if they are begrudged on their amounts or having financial hardship. You always have to put yourself out there and understand another person's situation. Working with the employees to ensure everything works smoothly. And you have to have a checks and balance system whenever you're dealing with money issues, debits, credits, cash handling, bank deposits, things like that. You have to be aware that nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that's important, how we handle our money and how it comes in and how we account for it. Any other question, or just sort of a comment? You work in a position you're collecting taxes and people come in sometimes at their worst time and sometimes they barely have enough and they're given their last, $400 or $500 and sometimes they get a little bit angry or disgruntled. How would you deal with a customer or a citizen that comes in a little bit really upset with having to pay their taxes?
I would try to assure them that we want to work with them and help them and sympathize with them and try to make them understand where they're coming from. I don't know if there's any leeway you can give people on those type of situations, though, when you're collecting the taxes, but you can at least offer your sympathy and try to help them in any way you can.
Okay, thank you. All set.
Okay, you have any questions for us?
No?
All right, so as you know, tomorrow night is the full city council meeting. Each city councilor has their right to vote for any individual they would like, and whoever gets the majority of those votes would move on to seeing our city clerk and getting sworn in.
Okay.
So we appreciate your time. We also appreciate your effort with the city for the last 17 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, so having said all this, I think that the last person hasn't shown up and hasn't spoken to Jeffrey, so we're just going to move on to the last item on the agenda, which is an item, if I can get a second to take off the table, an appointment by Councilor Murphy. Second for Chelsea Gazilio.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, okay. All right, so the honorable city councilors, subject to your approval, I hereby appoint the following individual to serve as a member of the Conservation Commission for the City of Holyoke. Miss Chelsea Grzillo, 79 Lawler Street. Ms. Grzillo will replace Mr. Price Armstrong and will serve the remainder of his term. Said term will expire February 1st of 2022. All right, so do we have this person with us? Okay, oh, there she is, top right. All right, so I'm not sure if you were paying attention to the last interviews that we're doing, but basically what happens is just give us kind of like your background, and why you'd like to be on this commission and that sort of thing, then any city councilor will, can ask you any questions that she or he chooses. So, hello, good evening. Tell us your name and your address.
Hello, it's great to be here with you all this evening. I live at 79 Lawler Street. My name is Chelsea Gazzillo, and I am thrilled to be in front of you all today to discuss why I want to be appointed to the city's Conservation Commission. I am originally from Chesterfield, Massachusetts. However, my great-grandfather, when he first immigrated to this area from Thetford Mines, Canada, he came right to Holyoke and he raised his 13 kids here. So my family does have strong roots here. I am excited to be on the Conservation Commission because my grandfather, my mom's father, was a dairy farmer, and he owns a dairy farm in Westhampton, Massachusetts, or he did own a dairy farm in Westhampton, Massachusetts. And through growing up so close to the farm, I got to know what it was like to appreciate the beauty of the outdoors, and understood that land is valuable and that open space and the ecosystem services they provide are a necessity for all types of life and for humans to for humans to thrive. And so wanting to become more involved, civically engaged. I'm really sorry. As soon as I start talking on Zoom, my dog wants to be let out. So give me a second here.
No worries.
That's a good one.
That's the first, right?
I've had to do it a couple of times.
I am so sorry about that.
That's
I had a
okay.
feeling that was going
I
to
have a
happen, but she's been sleeping next to me for the last 2 hours. So
Oh, that's okay.
I thought we would be okay. So I want to become more civically engaged. I currently am the New England policy manager for an organization called American Farmland Trust. I have a master's degree from SIT Graduate Institute in sustainable development with an emphasis in policy advocacy and analysis. In addition to my experience with American Farmland Trust as the New England policy manager, I was previously the Working Lands Alliance director in Connecticut. And through that role, I updated Connecticut's conservation options for farmland guide and the Connecticut Planning for Agriculture guide. I am well versed in reviewing regulations and policies and then making them applicable mostly to farmers, but I think that the experience transcends to this volunteer role on the Conservation Commission. In addition to all of that, I was at my graduate institute, I was heavily involved in our school's efforts to become more climate resilient. And so I led our school's green or sustainable student group called Green Up SIT. I've written many reports for Green Up SIT and for American Farmland Trust. And yeah, I'll leave it there and take questions from you. I hope you all have my resume in front of you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and one of the important roles on, the Conservation Commission is one of the, it's a big deal. And you're going to be working with a lot of people looking for different changes to this and that. What's your experience of working with businesses that are coming in that, sometimes it's not black and white, sometimes you have to make decisions. So just maybe give some thoughts on that.
Well, I don't have any direct experience working with businesses on conservation commissions because this would be my first time sitting on a conservation commission. However, I have experiences working with a variety of different individuals and farmers over the years that, yeah, the answer is not always black and white. And so I think it's important to ask all of the prevalent questions, make sure that they've fully done their research, make sure that whatever they're trying to do does uphold any state, federal, and local regulations or laws that are applicable. I also think that it is important that as we look towards development, that we're doing development in balance with our natural resources. And so keeping in mind that, yes, we do need to promote businesses, and we also need to protect our ecosystems and open space as much as possible.
Thank you. Councilor Graney? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Councilor. Do we have Councilor Lisi or Councilor Hernandez? Do you have any statements or questions? Yeah, there we go. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you so much for recognizing me, Chair Leahy. Thank you so much, Ms. Gazzillo, for coming down this evening. Just out of curiosity, given there is a large emphasis on the Conservation Commission of balancing the needs of development and our natural resources, our natural environment. I'd like to ask, number one, so are there models of development that you think are going to be more supportive of the environment as we grow in the city? And then I'll let you answer that, and then I'll go on to my second question.
Well, I am not a certified planner, so I'm sure there are specific terms that describe using smart development approaches. I would say that in my experience in writing the Planning for Agriculture Guide in Connecticut, that I think as we look at where we're placing development, like, are we placing development on land that could be used for agriculture? Are we reclaiming land in a way that we could use it for development, like brownfields or other impervious surfaces? So yeah, as we look towards future, especially in Holyoke, I do think that we need to protect as much of the natural resources left in the city as possible. And so I guess I would say that smart growth is really important. And making sure that with smart growth, we also prioritize having there be open space, and, like you said, accessibility to natural resources for everyone in the city. And just making sure that as we grow, there's also management plans for any industry that is going to be producing waste. I think that seeing those plans up front will be of importance.
Great, thank you so much for that response. The second question I have sort of touches on the last response that you gave. So usually, again, the focus is sort of mitigating, sort of like the environmental impacts of different projects that are coming before the city. But I do think that there's an opportunity for the Conservation Commission to also seek out studies. And for example, you had mentioned like management plans. And so you're not on the committee just yet, and so I don't need a really detailed answer. So, but could you imagine, like, given your understanding of Holyoke and the different challenges that we face, what sort of management plans or studies would be beneficial for the city to undertake through the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that the commission has an open space 10-year plan, is my understanding, open space and conservation 10-year plan. And I think it is about to come up to be redrafted. I could be wrong on that. So I heard something about that from the previous person who served on the Conservation Commission, Price Armstrong, whose seat I'm here in front of you to be appointed to. I would say that, yes, looking forward and having strategic plans on where we should be looking at protecting open space and the natural resources of Holyoke, where we haven't already done some protection or conservation, would be important. There is tons of, or not tons, but as we look towards the future, there are lots of state resources that I think we could be tapping into to protect some of the open space that maybe we aren't utilizing enough. And so I would be interested in learning how to bring more of those state dollars to Holyoke. I know that the state is also looking at how to allocate American Rescue Act funds now, and there is discussion to allocate some of those funds towards conservation practices / climate change mitigation practices. And I think that there is opportunity for Holyoke to look into how we could maybe work with the state to figure out how to leverage some of those funds. And so, yeah, I do think that having a strategic plan that outlines how we are going to move towards mitigating, adapting, and becoming resilient in the face of climate change, and utilizing our working lands and natural resources to do so is something that I would like to work on as part of this appointment to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you so much for those responses.
Councilor Grady, yep, yes, sir.
Yes, quickly, Ms. Gazzillo, is it?
It's Ms. Gazzillo, yes.
As you know, being a resident of Holyoke, we are water wealthy in this community. We have a mile and a half of riverfront, beautiful mile and a half of riverfront that is unmolested at this time. There are solar panels, however, that are going in different areas. We also have several reservoirs surrounding the community, and we have a bountiful supply of water. And one thing that is near and dear to my heart is the Whiting Reservoir. There's an ongoing study going on what to do with the Whiting Reservoir. Do you have anything to say about the Whiting Reservoir?
I am not aware of this study, but if I'm appointed to the commission, I will read up on it and learn what the study is trying to accomplish and where the Whiting Reservoir is and the natural resources that surround it. The Connecticut River is also very near and dear to my heart, and protecting it and making sure that it is not polluted is of essence, not just for Holyoke, but also for everyone downstream from Holyoke and for the Long Island Sound. So I do think that making sure that we are protecting what goes into the river and conserving the land around the river and ensuring that the river is pristine is important.
Thank you.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chelsea, welcome, and thank you for expressing an interest in this position. Being that it's an appointment of the mayor, our job is to confirm, to check your character, integrity, and credentials. And then quite frankly, you pass all three with flying colors. The way you answer questions this evening, your credentials speak for themselves, and your understanding, I think, of the issues and your empathy for protecting open space and for protecting our natural resources is exactly what conservation is about. You certainly will have my vote to confirm your position. So I'm going to leave you, though, with one thought. You don't have to respond if you don't wish. Is even though I'm all in favor of everything you've said and what I just said myself in terms of protection, we are on the side of a mountain. We have Mount Tom Reservation plus more in conservation protected land. We have watershed, that has to be protected by our reservoirs and by the river. We have a canal system that needs to be protected because that's part of it too. We have, a tremendous amount of acres that are devoted towards conservation preservation, and I'm all in favor of that. But please keep an open mind on those few occasions of those spaces that we need to develop so that we can stay financially strong as a community, become more strong as a community in terms of jobs, resources, and tax dollars, because we are an industrial city. And sometimes that clashes, and I think that's one of the reasons why people don't understand how special Holyoke is that we are an industrial city in the midst of a wonder of natural resources. And it's worked over the years. But if you could just keep an open mind that we still have to economically develop to keep strong, I would appreciate that.
Yes, that's a very good point that you bring up. And in my work life, right now I'm working on trying to configure how we can move forward with smart solar siting practices, smart solar siting on farmland. So to get to what you're saying, I do agree with you that I think that it needs to be done in balance. Like, we do need economic development as much as we need to protect our natural and working lands. And how can we do that in balance? And I think that that's what the Conservation Commission is for, is how can we make sure that these two interests that are good for the holistic, or are good for Holyoke in a holistic way, are taken into consideration, right? So I agree with that, and thank you for saying that.
Thank you, and that's the best answer I've ever heard to that thought.
All right. Okay, so at this point, we're going to conclude. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor. I can't remember.
You forgot about me, right? I'm
No,
still here. I'm still here. Thank you, Chelsea, for applying and for this position. And from hearing from you tonight, you're very well qualified. And you say your great grandfather brought his family down here and had 13 kids. I'm from a large family myself, so I'm really didn't come down from Canada, but been here right along. We're a green city, and we hear a lot of talk, not just locally, but nationally, about climate change. How do you feel we can do better in the city of Holyoke in that aspect with regards to climate change?
Well, I do believe that there have been numerous plans that have been written that outline how the city can become more climate resilient. I think that having a comprehensive plan of how we could become net neutral and moving the city towards becoming, like I said earlier, we need to take a holistic view when we talk about climate change or conservation or development. And so I think having a comprehensive plan where we did that, where we looked at our electricity sources and where we're sourcing energy from, and where we looked more at open space and conservation and what lands are we protecting, and where we look at our food system, right, and how much local food we're able to produce here, and where we're not able to produce local food in Holyoke, how we can support more farmers in coming to the city, because we do live in a very agricultural rich area. And I also think it is about looking at economic development and what kind of buildings we're putting up and how are we outfitting old buildings. And so I think having some kind of comprehensive plan outlining how we do all of that would be important. I know that there are various plans out there, but I don't know if there's anything that's completely comprehensive that's been done.
Thank you. I think that's a great answer. And I just went into my locker and got a lot of old books there. And this one's from 2012 to 2017, planning on open and recreational development in our city. So if they're not working on it now, maybe they should be working on what we can do in our city to make it, greener and in the open space, protecting the open spaces in our community. But thanks again for stepping up and for volunteering for this important position in our city.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's interesting, Councilor Tallman's first time going to his locker since 2017.
It's been a while.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I just want to make, and this goes to the Whiting Reservoir. I think it's been announced, but they're going to be conducting a hearing in this council chambers this Thursday to get public input. 6 o'clock, I believe, there Thursday, and I have worked out so that we also have interpretation into Spanish. So
well done as always.
There is an opportunity to for the public to find out what the ideas that have been expressed about the Whiting Reservoir, and then obviously eventually to offer input. But it is on Zoom and it is on public television. Jeffrey, right? It is going to be Channel 15 as well.
Great, thank you. So one last question, because this is, obviously deals with the conservation. There's currently a moratorium on gas expansion, expanding the pipes in the city of Holyoke. What are your thoughts and views on that?
Oh, okay. I would have to think about it. I don't know if I can answer that because I don't really know enough about how it came about or why there is a moratorium, where we would need more gas lines. So I think I need to think about it and learn more about the issue before I could thoughtfully and intellectually respond to that.
Great answer. Okay, so tomorrow night, I'm about to make a motion that your appointment be confirmed, and I see no reason why it's not going to. So tomorrow night, at the full city council, we'll bring up this report out of the subcommittee, and I'm guessing there's not going to be any challenges. So after that, then you could talk to our good city clerk and get sworn in. Do you have any questions for us?
I do not. Thank you so much for having me this evening, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion that it's been confirmed.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, so 3-0.
on item number 4, you have to report it out as complied with so we can vote on it tomorrow.
Item number 4, okay, we're all set, okay, thank you. So item number 4, I'll entertain a motion for, this is regards to the public service interview for the position of tax collector. Interview a motion,
I make a motion that item number 4 has been complied with.
second, all in favor? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, 3-0. Okay, you guys, I just want to thank, Councilor Hernandez, Lisi, Murphy, McGivern, Tallman, Graney, Mr. Scott McPherson downstairs at Holyoke Media, and my man Jeffrey Anderson Burgos for keeping this meeting together. I'll ask for a motion of adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, everybody have a good night. Thank you for watching and thank you
Good
for
night.
listening.
Thank
Take
you.
care.